What up, it's me, JerseyMade93 here, and today we're going to talk about defending the backdoor cuts. Now, I'm not going to give you guys a highly produced video. We're not going to edit it. We're just going to break down the footage, and then I'm going to show you guys the strategies that I use to adjust to somebody who's trying to cheese backdoor cuts. Now, I will say this, you can see his record on the screen right now, that this guy's won almost 100 games playing like this. This is not saying that 2K doesn't need to fix the game in terms of collisions and backdoor cuts, angles, and the rotations and all those other things. This is just to show you guys how I personally adjust to backdoor cuts when it's being spammed like this player. Now, I will have different adjustments for different type of players who might try to use backdoor cuts, but for him, this was primarily his only source of offense. So let's break this down. All right, so let's actually talk about how these backdoor cuts / slips works, because he doesn't really spam them through like, you know, triangle or the old way, like that was in NBA 2K24. He spams them through pick and roll slips. So as you see right here, he tries to use the slip with Eamon against VJ, and the problem with that is that VJ has the speed and he has some badges, so he's going to be able to get back into play. And obviously when you see that, you should switch off because you're going to make a bigger impact on the layup. And what I mean by switch off is X switching to the closest defender, or the defender that's going to be under the basket. So in that case, it's VJ. Now he adjusts because now this cheese works best against slower defenders or players that don't have off-ball pests or whatever the badge is this year for off-ball bumps. And as you can see right here, he gets the position that he wants and he's able to get the layup finally. Slower players or slower defenders are going to have a tough time defending against this. You could try using smaller matchups, but the problem with that is going to be the size disadvantage that they might have in the paint. The Rockets are the tallest team in the NBA, or have the tallest lineup, so obviously that's something that you just kind of have to decide with your opponent if he's somebody that's more dangerous with jump shots or layups and dunks and things like that. But that's how he starts to adjust, and he gets the layup that he probably wants because he attacks a slower player. Because what they're exploiting is the fact that slower players, they're going to create a lot more separation, since when you lead pass to the basket in 2K26, you get a speed boost. And that speed boost creates a lot of separation, and that's how they're able to get dunks and layups. So the first thing you might want to do is actually just switch to a quicker lineup if you're dealing with somebody that spams slips like this. So if you guys remember, in my help defense guide video for NBA 2K25, I talked about settings, and I also mentioned my philosophy is that you don't try to use or copy and paste every setting for every opponent because they all play differently. So he has been using this for a couple possessions now, and I understand this is his only source of offense. So now I'm going to go into the coaching settings and actually adjust to him. Now, one thing that you will notice, that the no hedge setting, I'm going to use that to keep my teammate between the basket and his matchup. I don't want him playing too high up, so we're not going to use a hard hedge or a soft hedge. That's going to make him try to slow down the ball handler because he's trying to score off of the screen with the ball handler. He's not using the screens like that. He's only trying to score off of the slips. So we're going to use no hedge, and that's going to keep him between the man and the basket. So that's going to allow us to be able to be in better positions when he tries to lead pass to the rim, and hopefully we are able to get some stops. Okay, now that the settings are adjusted, let's see how this works, because he's going to use this pick and roll slip again. Now, I do like how he kind of disguised it with the walk up, but you see I'm actually really smothering it on that one. This actually is a prime example of how important your settings are when playing 2K. I'm going to do it side by side like I usually do in my videos, but I want you guys to see how VJ gives him again a small grab eventually when this comes up, and that really helps him get in front of Eamon. Again, we went to no hedge because we don't want VJ or anybody playing up high, because that's going to push him up towards the ball handler, and that slip is going to allow him to be free for a dunk or a layup towards the basket. But because he's basically playing behind, he's going to keep himself between his man and the basket, as we are all taught when we are growing up playing basketball, and that is going to be a missed layup. So let's look at this side by side with the settings on versus the settings off. Now, I am going to reference this one more time, but the NBA 2K25 help defense guide, I said this. I said that if you are using a great defender and he's not playing great defense because you have him in the wrong settings, he's not going to be able to play great defense. Essentially, that's what I said. But as you can see right here, leaving default settings on, that applies to that. if you have great defenders, but you're not playing the great team defense that you want, the default settings is going to be the reason why they're not able to really use their badges or their high ratings on defense and take advantage of those steals, those blocks, or whatever type of defensive awareness that they have, because you're just not putting them in the best position to play great defense. And as you can see right here, the default settings, he's behind Eamon, while on the no hedge, he's actually in front of him. And that is a major difference to stopping this cheese. So this is where you can make some type of discretion in terms of how much you want to adjust. So now he's not going to try to get a backdoor cut through pick and roll slips only. He's going to try to use the manual cuts. He's going to go and get a manual cut with KD. He is going to score on this possession. Now I could panic and try to gap and try to like bring all of that extra help or leave him more space with KD to be able to shoot, but I figured it's way more dangerous for KD to have open threes compared to him trying to make a few twos or whatever like that. So the next possession I score, he's going to try to go back to the slip, but he hasn't realized that the no hedge is preventing him from getting that separation that he wants. Paul George locks that up. I'm going to get a bucket, and then we're going to end the quarter 16-17. He really can't play any on-ball defense. He's not really a great ISO player. You know, those things. He's just purely scoring off of transition buckets and the backdoor cuts and pick and roll slips. So now you're going to see eventually that I don't have my settings adjusted for his bench players, so I don't have the no hedge on. So he's going to have options or opportunities to get those slips. Because we're on the fly and we cannot make adjustments with the defensive menu, the on the fly coaching settings menu is not in 2K26 again, so I have to resort to off-ball defense. I know a lot of people don't like off-ball defense, but when somebody's exploiting something like this, I think off-ball defense is a logical adjustment to make. But essentially, while I'm off ball, I'm doing the same thing, no hedge. I already know where he's going with the basketball. I'm only going to move out the paint a little bit to not get a violation, but I already know where the basketball is going, and I'm going to be ready and prepared to defend the layup at the rim. Now, this is a strategy that I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't really going to tell you, but it's the truth with basketball. If you really want somebody like this who isn't the most talented or skilled player offensively, like one-on-one, simply make them get the basketball out of the net. Like scoring and having a good offense, like not taking bad shots, that really helps slow the game down, forces them to try to like really execute and play the game instead of just being able to hit, you know, pass and dunk all day. That's pretty much the only two buttons that they'll pretty much use. But that's a really valid strategy. I haven't adjusted and gone to my coaching settings yet and put no hedge on his second unit. I don't feel like it's necessary yet, because as you see right there, he's trying to still use the strategy, but you need to have a high pass, you need to have a speed advantage, and you need to be able to finish at the rim. And he's just kind of just throwing this at the wall at this point with whoever he can get open. But I still have some of my starters out there, and it's a big advantage for me. As you see right here, I kind of play it decently. That is going to happen sometimes. You're going to get called for a foul. It's going to not always result in your favor. The foul system has some issues, whatever like that, but for the most part, you know, you just want to focus on, was I in position? Did I have a chance to make a play on the ball? If you are, your defensive settings are good, and you just have to continue to try to like wear your opponent down and try your best to stay in position and get those buckets on the other end. Now, I never went into the settings, and I know that there's probably like a no hedge option or something like that, like a universal OTC on the fly coaching OTFC option. But I honestly, I probably forgot about it, y'all. So I'm like, yo, what's going on in my settings? And I got so locked in, I forgot to even go in my settings. I'm not gonna lie, it happens. But I went to the off ball because, you know, he's using this, he's exploiting stuff in the transition, stuff that I could have showed, but he was cheesing a lot of these, like, you know, manual cuts and things like that. So this is where we try to force him to shoot. A lot of people, especially playing online, they never lab with their second unit. They do not know how to shoot, how to dribble, anything with bench players. So when they cannot use that cheese, that backdoor cut cheese, that pick and roll cheese, whatever it is, they are really lost out here because they are forced to really play the game. And this is what we're trying to force them to do with the off-ball adjustments and roaming. So this is roaming right here. What I'm going to do is, I know Embiid is going to play too high up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take control of the weak side, and I'm going to rotate over, and that's going to make it very difficult for Jeff Green to get an easy look at the rim. Obviously, Embiid is going to play too high up, and that's what gets him beat for the backdoor cut. And with the roaming over, the rotation over, now he has a tougher layup. Most of them are used to just a clear lane for a dunk or layup. They're not used to finishing through contact. So now that I made these adjustments for the entire third quarter, I only held him to 5 points. He has Houston, probably the most elite cheesy 2K team on 2K26 right now. I'm just going to continue to pick him apart because he has adjusted to the fact that Houston just doesn't have the interior defense that they need to stop somebody like Embiid or some of the other slashers that the Sixers have. He's going to go back to trying to abuse the slips. I know that. What I'm going to try to do is continue to roam. As you see right here, I'm going to crowd the paint. Paul George, thankfully, he jumps. I mean, that was great. Sarcasm right there, but he has an open shot. Again, most players are not used to shooting, or they don't ever lab or practice with the second unit, so I'm not worried about these open shots. You have to understand, again, the price of what you are trying to trade off. You cannot stop everything. You have to just try to look at what your opponent is the strongest at and force him to his weakness. He's not a great jump shot shooter. He's been trying to score off of these backdoor slips and cuts, these backdoor cuts and these pick and roll slips. He doesn't even have the rhythm or the feel for jump shots right now, and that's one of the things about shooting jump shots early that's really good for you in Play Now Online, is that eventually you do pick up on the timing, you do get the feel of the lag and everything, so that you can start making jump shots more consistently. But you see right here, he's going back to those backdoor cuts. We continue to play off of it. Jeff Green is tired, and he doesn't understand that's making his strategy worse, because now any type of bump or contact, it's going to take a miracle for him to basically finish at the rim. I'm on that because I already know he's trying to play a little faster now because I had the lead and we go into the fourth quarter in a 2-possession game. So this is exactly what we try to do. We try to focus on being in position, because eventually being in position pays off. So fourth quarter comes around, he puts his starters in. Makes sense. This is pretty much what he likes to do, is try to have his starters have fresh legs. I have Eric Gordon on Kevin Durant. Immediately we call the timeout, put that ego to the side. You have to use your timeouts. Not only do you get a stamina boost, but also this allows you to access some of the more intricate defensive settings that we already know, without having to waste a pause and all that stuff. So this is typically why I try to just, again, allow my opponent to just show me how he's trying to score, and then I adjust accordingly. So now that he has Kevin Durant out there, my thing is he's going to try his best to continue to mash his way towards the rim. So I'm going to play even more off of him with the off-ball pressure. So I'm going to start gapping off of a few people so that they can have more space to be crowding the paint and to rotate a little earlier if necessary. Aiming out, he could shoot, but I'd rather him shoot with him than anybody else, that's out there on the Rockets. And we're going to see that once he gets the possession after I score, he's going to go back to those manual cuts, but now we have a crowded paint and he's not able to finish. So again, a big component of stopping the backdoor, the pick and roll slips, is having the right personnel on certain players that are just bigger threats. So even though, again, we are going to give up a big height advantage, you see that we're not going to allow that slip to get through, and is actually going to go into a forced pickup dribble. Please try to put your best defenders on a person that's the biggest threat with these pick and roll slips. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give him a taste of his own medicine. I'm tired of dealing with that. You know what I'm saying? But just like here, it's not that difficult to do. So he actually smartens up and he actually starts shooting some jumpers with KD. I thought I had a dunk right there. Don't know what happened. But again, we talk about just having better offense and how a lot of these people just score in transition. So So once he makes a few shots with KD, all right, I could adjust my strategy a little bit more, and I'm gonna just start kind of flooding him, you know, trying to trap him, speed him up, let him score or force him to score with anybody else besides KD. That's the strategy now. So again, I call another timeout because I'm not going to continue to allow a few possessions to go by and allow him to continue to make threes or just, you know, get back into the rhythm with the pick and roll slips or backdoor cuts. So we're going to call the timeout, get our starters some Gatorade or whatever the case is, and we're going to actually go into the coaching settings and we're going to put a tighter coverage on KD because he's been making some perimeter shots. So the reason why we are going to play a little tighter on KD is because of the situation. Don't ever worry about your settings if they've been working throughout the game, but the situation changes and now you need to adjust your defense. That is fine. Again, these people that want to say, oh, just follow these settings, that's, to me, that's not really being a good 2K content creator, because you're not allowing people to understand that your settings and the situation has to continue to adjust so that you get the defense that you want. So I said earlier in the video that I don't always make adjustments, or I don't constantly adjust to every little shot that my opponent gets, because you have to accept that when you make certain adjustments, you are going to give up other type of shots. So again, when you have YouTubers saying like, if you just put this setting on, you're going to stop all of these shots and nobody will be able to get a look at the basket, they won't be able to see the sun, that's not realistic, and they're kind of making you rely on settings too much because you have to adjust to how your opponent plays. This is a great example of this. I know that he's been only using manual cuts and slips all game. Even though I put a tighter coverage on KD, which I understand is going to allow KD to get those backdoor cuts because my defender is playing up higher, I'm going to off-ball roam and I'm going to be able to crowd the paint. So now he has to make a very tough layup in traffic compared to a open layup or dunk. Again, this is all about position. Again, you want to ask yourself, was I there? And if you are in position, that means you have the correct settings or you are using the right strategy. And so then this is where we kind of like, you know, call game at, man, because, you know, it was a long fought battle, but, you know, eventually, again, we talk about being able to have or establish the type of shots we want and the shots that we want to give our opponent. So if you are struggling against the backdoor cuts, the pick and roll slips, no hedge is going to help you a lot. Use the off ball strategy. Again, I don't see nothing wrong with using the off ball against something like that. And then once we get this ISO right here with PG ball game. What PG say? Ball game. And yeah, we just you know, just sign and deliver, and this game is a wrap, you know. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, this breakdown. Again, adjust to your opponents and go into those settings and you will get your dubs. I'm JerseyMade93. Let me know if you enjoy and you want more of these videos in the comment section below. Please hit a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm out. Peace.